Video's there, audio's there. Great. Okay, let's get stuck in. Hey Ryan, welcome back. All right, let's get stuck in. So today, it's light on the calendar, um, and we've got this US government shutdown. So we're not getting the US data out that we'd normally get. So very tricky in terms of trading conditions. However, the broad outlook is very supportive. US equity futures are pointing higher for the open. There's optimism around artificial intelligence and the expectations that the Fed is going to be cutting in the next decision and in December. So that's supporting risk appetite. Got S&P 500 futures up about 0.4%. The index was up a percentage point last week, despite the ongoing US government shutdown that has delayed key economic data. The last sort of data we had was the ADP jobs. It was negative. The previous print was negative, but that's just fueling optimism that interest rate cuts are coming. Nasdaq futures up 0.6% at the open. Tech stocks once again leading the charge, and it's optimism about open AI with you've got AMD, Advanced Micro Devices. Where are they? Let's just find them. You can see that they are up significantly. Nvidia, yeah, if you take a look at AMD, you'll see that those prices are up massively, right? Pre-market. And that's a major partnership that AMD have signed with OpenAI. And that's to roll out new AI infrastructure. And the deal is expected to generate tens of billions of dollars for revenue. Right? That's helping lift tech sentiment. Tesla's also up, teasing a product announcement on coming up this week. And according to Goldman Sachs, they're saying, US companies are delivering stronger than expected earnings, that there's a bit of an underestimate, and that the US economy is resilient, and there's ongoing AI investment, which is just boosting sentiment across the board. So the macro backdrop just remains supportive, right? Now, looking at Europe, we've had a big sell-off in the CAC 40. It fell more than 2% after the Prime Minister resigned. French banks led losses. In commodities, we've got gold leading the charge in the commodity space, up over $3,900 an ounce. New record, a high. And investors just piling into the what's called the trade. So with lots of debt around the world and inflationary prices seem to be entrenched, there seems to be a feature rather than a bug. And then that's just driving moves into Bitcoin, into gold, and again, silver benefiting, copper also benefiting, as commodities generally benefit from that debasement trade. Asia, we had Japan's Nikkei surging 5% to an all-time high. That's the next Japanese Prime Minister is expected to be a follower of Abenomics, which is quantitative easing, low interest rates, just boosting the Japanese economy. And that sent the yen sharply lower. And you can see the Japanese yen, just plummeting after that decision. That pulled me out of my dollar yen shorts around break even, just slightly better. So I'm out of my dollar yen shorts on that move. And oil prices are also suffering broadly, but there was a little uptick in oil prices just because OPEC Plus agreed to restore supply more slowly than expected. So they're reviving just 137,000 barrels per day. So overall, sentiment just remains upbeat. You can see WTI crude coming into a weak seasonal period. So I wouldn't be expecting the uptick in oil that we've seen this morning to necessarily last. We are heading into a weak seasonal period, and the IEA does project oversupply in the oil market for 2026. So all remains a sort of sell. So you can see AMD up, United Health. I closed that out on Friday with just those United Health pulling back. We've broken out that channel. Might look at a pullback towards that channel, but I just closed out that on Friday. So I'm completely flat across the board. My 10-year yield trade was stopped out just as price moved back up high into that channel. So I'm out of that. Dollar yen just out at around break even, and I'm just sort of completely flat across the board. Now, in terms of sentiment, you can see that market is just pushing into that value area high from Friday on the Globex Open, and we're just hovering around that R1 pivot point. So that's where we're at in terms of the session as we get going. The hourly chart shows us positive sentiment, that the inventory is positive and has been. We've got those sellers trapped there by buyers, so we're in a nice buy area, and it's the value area high from last week. So nice area for buying, and it's a point of control for this week. So we're in a nice buy zone. You can see here on the 15-minute chart that buyers have come in. They haven't quite trapped those sellers, but you can see that we're having some support off that daily VWAP. So moving down to where those sellers were there, we've had a kiss and a go, kiss and a go. So that'll be a very interesting area as we start the session. You can see we are grinding higher. The delta is positive from the Globex Open. You can see here on the 5-minute chart that buyers have come in here and trapped sellers. So the only thing that's a bit tricky is we're into that value area high from Friday. So it's not like we're on top and pushing away. We've broken through and we're pushing into it. So it really, you know, we want to see this pushing up. Yeah, gap up at 6766. All right, let's have a look. This gap area here, it's obviously key support, and what it does do is it makes that value area low and that pivot point a really nice support area. So given the fact that we've just pushed through that value area high, what that means is slightly tricky. On the weekly chart, we're sat on top of this value area high trying to push higher. But on the 15-minute chart, you can see that we've pushed a little bit through that value area high and we're just sort of being capped underneath. I think the fact that we've held at the VWAP, the fact that this is held here, it means that any retracements lower down to that 70 region, just above that 667 with that gap, that's a great support area. But otherwise, I'm thinking if we push above here on the 5, like we push above those sellers here, then I think based on the 1-hour chart, we can start to look to go forward and higher. Okay. If we don't get over that 6, if we don't trap these sellers here, then I think it's a lot more of a moot situation, Ryan. So that's the way I'm reading it. So I'll be looking at this area carefully. I want to see evidence that we're breaking above this, especially at the open. And let's see, those sellers weren't trapped. Ideally, if these sellers can get trapped on the 15, then it's much more, you're carrying up higher. So I think we're just sort of, broadly speaking, buyers, yes, inventory positive, definitely buying on the dips. Otherwise, just looking at this 5-minute chart here, if we trap those sellers, then any retracement back down to the VWAP, I expect to find buyers on it. Okay, got a 15-minute close. What we've seen is those sellers have come in. They've trapped buyers here and here, so that's not a bad area to look for potential shorts there, up against that standard deviation. So I will look for shorts here if I can get them. You can see the 15, a lot of delta, trap those buyers here. We've got the first standard deviation of the VWAP, nice areas for looking for shorts. Okay, let's see what we get. Yeah, okay, so this is looking like it wants to go. We are in a support area. That's the only thing to be aware of. But looking for sellers against that area we find here. So if I can go up here and get some buyers trapped actually against the VWAP, I'll take that. On balance volume moving lower, cumulative delta moving lower. Here we go. All right. So the VWAP would also be fine. You can see you got buyers trapped up there. So anywhere up at that VWAP. here. If I get these buyers trapped, I'll go with that. So I'm looking for these buyers to be trapped. Not trapped yet. You're back to that value area low. All right. Right, I've gone short there. A lot of sellers come in. They've trapped the buyers there. Let's see what we can get.
Spot check across the markets after the US equity opening bell. Stocks have opened in the green, do have outperformance in the Nasdaq, supported by AMD shares rallying after the open AI deal. Meanwhile, Dow Jones is lagging today, just downside in Verizon and Home Depot, Verizon lower on the CEO transition. Sectors are mixed, with tech outperforming and communication lagging. Meanwhile, dollar slightly firmer, probably being supported by weakness in the yen after the ODP leadership election, also weakness in the euro after the French PM resignation. Oil prices, they are firmer after OPEC Plus producers agreed to a modest production increase of 137,000 barrels per day in November. Meanwhile, gold prices continue to push higher as growing fiscal concerns.
Right, I'm out of that. It's gone wrong.
Concerns in the US with the shutdown continue to support the yellow metal. On the shutdown, do note the punch bowl did summarise there's no deal in sight to end the crisis.
Right, that's gone wrong, so I'm out of that. Let's just see why that went. All right. Yes. Just maybe that value area low, that fair value gap, just providing a bit of support. Okay, get back under there, give it maybe one more go. Okay, gonna give it a go.
Now, folks, a couple of Brazil-related updates here. According to Bloomberg, Brazil's Lula and US President Trump set to hold talks on the phone. They're citing reports. Additionally, for the Brazilian rail watchers, the BCP chief Galopolo says the floating FX rate, one of the main lines of defense.
All right, just took it off to hit the second standard deviation. So pretty much flat on the day with all this. Okay, so we're back at it. That was tricky, that one. That was that. Okay. Into that support area. It's just going to hold fire there. That's a good area for buyers to come back in. So let's just wait, see what happens. Got an hourly close coming up. Inventory is now definitely negative. The 15. Let's have a look. See if this. I'll take a little short here if I can. If I get these sellers, these buyers trapped.